Hey there, sixth graders. We are going to quickly review the distributive property. We did take a look at this when you were in fifth grade, and we're going to review this because we're going to start sprinkling in some algebra. And next lesson, we're going to do things like 5 times 4x minus 1. So I want to make sure we are solid with our distributive property without variables, because soon we're going to sprinkle those variables in. So let's just review what the distributive property tells us and when we use it. So the distributive property combines multiplication with addition or subtraction. So we use it when we're multiplying a number by a sum or a difference. And the way I always remembered it growing up was the stem or the root of the word distributive is distribute. And what does it mean to distribute? To distribute means you are giving equal shares of, or I like to think about it as dealing out. So I think about like dealing cards. What you're going to do is you're going to distribute the number on the outside into both pieces. Excuse me again. So again, we use the distributive property when we are multiplying a number. When we are multiplying a number by a sum or difference of two terms. So when we're adding or subtracting two terms and we're multiplying something outside of it. Let's tackle this using the order of operations, PEMDAS, and then we are going to use the distributive property to prove that we can use the distributive property and that we'll get the same correct answer. So if I gave you this problem and didn't tell you to use the distributive property, hopefully the first thing you'd think about doing is tackling the parentheses first. So this would be 3 times 7, and 3 times 7 is 21, and we get the correct answer. 4 minus 1 is 3, so this is 5 times 3, which is 15. This one you might be like, well, Miss Gannon, there is no sum or difference here. There's just a mixed number. Well, here's the fun fact. We can turn mixed numbers into addition problems. That's 2 1/4, 2 1/4, 2 plus 1/4. And so, oh gosh, I guess I really can't do order of operations here. Never mind. Okay, this is actually what I wanted to do. I apologize. Scratch that, although that is still a true statement. We're going to use that below. What I wanted you to do here was to turn this into an improper fraction. So this is going to be 8 times e plus c. That's 9 quarters. So 8 over 1 times 9 quarters. You multiply straight across. Actually, ooh, I can cross simplify. That'll make it easier. 1 and 2. 2 times 9 is 18. And we're going to see how actually this problem becomes easier if we use the distributive property. Because if I didn't cross simplify, also I want to show you how it could have gotten complicated. 8 times 9 is 72. So we would have gotten 72 quarters, and then you'd have to turn that into a whole number. We cross simplified, so it made it easier. But sometimes you get into nasty numbers like this, and then it's just more difficult. Distributive property will be rather nice. So let's get into the distributive property. Again, it allows us to multiply the number outside of the parentheses to both, keyword is both, to both of the add-ins or numbers involved, or the numbers involved with the subtraction problem. And then you keep the operation the same. So if you have, so if we have an addition problem here, when we distribute, it's going to remain addition. Because we have subtraction here, it's going to remain subtraction. So let's use the distributive property to solve this now. I don't know if you remember, but I like to use what I call the distributive rainbow, because a lot of kids forget to multiply the back number. So if you use this rainbow, it'll help be a visual prompt that, ooh, I got to do it to both. So this is going to be 3 times 5 plus 3 times 2. This is 15 plus 6 is 21. Did we get the same answer as we did above? 21 and 21, we sure did. Let's check and make sure the distributive property works for subtraction as well. So we already know the right answer is going to be 15 because we use order of operations. We're just checking to make sure distributive property does indeed work. So this is going to be 5 times 4 minus 5 times 1. 5 times 4 is 20 minus 5, which is 15. And I get what I got with order of operations. Awesome. Now let's take a look at this last one and see how this works out pretty nicely. So again, this is 8 times 2 plus 1 quarter. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply in. This is going to be 8 times 2 plus 8 times a quarter. And you might be thinking, Miss Gannon, you're making this look so much more difficult, but this might turn out to be a really nice value. 8 times 2 is 16. What is a quarter of 8? Well, a quarter of 8 is 2. 16 plus 2 is 18. So my point was, if you didn't simplify first, you would have gotten 72 quarters, which is kind of annoying to deal with because then you have to turn it back into a mixed number, which did end up being a whole number. Over here, I got 16 plus 2, which was 18. Not too shabby. So let's do some examples on the back side. We're going to attempt distributive property first, and we're going to check our answer with the order of operations. So using distributive property, so this is 5 times 3 plus 9. I'm going to distribute in. That's 5 times 3 plus 5 times 9. I do want to see this intermediate step. 15 plus 45 is 60. I'm hoping I get 60 when I use my order of operations. So order of operations, again, is PEMDAS. So I need to do parentheses first. This is 5 times 12. 5 times 12 is indeed 60, so we know we were correct. A half times 6 minus 2. So it doesn't matter what numbers, even if they're fractions, who cares? You're still multiplying in. So this is going to be half of 6 minus half of 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay, I'm going to use order of operations, and hopefully I also get 2. So we've got half of 6 minus 2. Order of operations, I do the inside first. Parentheses, excuse me. Half of 4 is 2, so we got the right answer. 8 times 6 minus 2, so we've got the 8 on the outside. Multiply in. 8 times 6 plus, minus 8 times 2. Whoops, I almost made a big mistake there. So it's 48 minus 16, which is what, 32? Let's check my answer by using order of operations. 8 times 4 is indeed 32, so I know I was correct. And the last one looks more intimidating than I think it'll end up being, and I think we'll see how actually in this problem, distributive property is going to be easier and nicer than order of operations, I think. So we have 4 times a half plus a quarter. So I'm going to multiply to both pieces. So I've got 4 times a half plus 4 times a quarter. Well, what's half of 4? 2. What's a quarter of 4? 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Not bad at all. Let's see how this would be done using PEMDAS, half plus a quarter. Well, this we'd have to turn into, that's 2 quarters plus a quarter. So really this is 4 times 3 quarters. And then I can put that over 1. And I multiply, and that's going to give me 12 quarters, which is equal to 3. So as you can see, actually using the distributive property when some of those fractions were involved actually made the problem a little bit easier. So remember tomorrow, or I guess today's Friday, so your lesson Monday, we are going to sprinkle in variables, which is why it's so important that you understand how to do the distributive property.